I'm here with John Lechleiter, retired CEO of Eli Lilly. John, I've known of you for many years, and uh, I think Lilly is a company with lots of chapters of leadership. You oversaw a time when things were expiring, patents were, and pipeline seemed to be taking a long time. How do you keep to a long-term vision when the voices are screaming for quarterly earnings?
Well, it's a good question, and I think it's a dynamic that probably plays out in many ways across many different kinds of businesses and different sorts of endeavors. I think one thing I realized early on, Jay, was for some people there is only a short term. There's ever only a short term, and those obviously in the case of Lilly would have included uh, certain types of investors that had shorter term time horizons. So I think one thing I learned early on that I wasn't going to win an argument, with folks. In other words, I wasn't going to prevail in terms of convincing people what we wanted to do at Lilly to deal with some of the challenges we faced by trying to convince them that they shouldn't be interested in the short term. We had to be interested in the short term as well. One of the things that we did early on was to declare that we were going to at least maintain the dividend over this rocky period. And of course, there were lots of skeptics about that. There were people that said, well, Pfizer said the same thing and they cut their dividend. And we've done our cash flow projections on Lilly and we don't think you can do that. Well, we did maintain our dividend. And I think, even though the stock hit a pretty low point, I remember walking home from work. It was probably March of '09. I think the stock had touched down at $28 that day. And I don't know, I looked a little bit ago, it was about $772. So there was a good long term in front of us. But in March of 2009, it seemed a little bleak. But we looked at, we maintained the dividend. We looked at all of the things that we could do, the levers we had control over, to send messages to our shareholders that we were being very mindful of investing their money wisely. It's something that seemed small, but I think was emblematic. Was I decided not to use the corporate plane for any personal travel, and that was a luxury that previous CEOs had, and I'd say most CEOs today, have that opportunity for security reasons and as perks as part of their job. But we tried to send signals like that said we were serious about minding the store in the near term because we were working towards something better in the long term. It wasn't hard for us to get, I guess you could say, inspired by a long-term vision, because those of us who knew the business, who had worked in the business. I mean, I joined Lilly right out of graduate school in 1979. It's a long-term game. I mean, that what is on the market today, the seeds of that were sown 10, 12, 15, 20 years ago in people's minds in laboratories. So, patience is part of it. That things fail along the way. It is a high-risk business. There's just no guarantee that what you take into initial clinical testing is ever going to get past that stage. So we knew we didn't want to turn Lilly into a different kind of company. We didn't want to become a generic company, a company selling generics. We didn't want to go into other lines of business. We believed, and I think we believe correctly, that there was tremendous opportunity still in the core of what we were good at and what we knew how to do, and we needed to stay with that. There's certainly criticism along the way. I think I was probably lucky that 10 years ago social media wasn't quite the thing even that it is today. My mother used to say, if you don't like what people are saying about you, don't listen. It's hard not to listen these days and to feel the brunt of that criticism, whether it's coming from from shareholders or from analysts or who knows from where. But I think while you have to acknowledge reality and understand what everybody, all those constituencies are thinking, and realize there are different points of view, I think you have to take the measures necessary to bring your own community along with you. It's not enough. It wasn't enough for Lechleiter to say, well, here's the game we're going to play in the midst of all these challenges. We're going to stay true to the core of what made Lilly Lilly, and have the fortitude and the patience to stick that out, because we really do think there are better days ahead. There are some gems in that pipeline that need to mature and play out. You've got to have other people saying that and believing that as well. We had a terrific board, not just terrific because they agreed with me, but terrific because I think they had the courage and fortitude to stay with us. But because that was in part because I think they felt we had a credible plan. It wasn't because they liked me or that they felt like that was the easy road to take. We had to bring our employees along. I mean, they read the newspapers. I mean, they heard what people were saying. They saw inside. Well, the pipeline. We've got a few things in the pipeline that didn't make it. We've got to replenish the pipeline. I mean, there were clear challenges. There was never an inside view that this was going to be easy or that this was a slam dunk. So we communicated extensively with our employees. I used to say I had a speech. I could give a speech any time of day or night, and I would only ever say three things, but I could adapt that to any audience. Okay. And it went along the lines of, here are the challenges we face today. Number one, be clear about what those were. Number two, we have a plan. We believe we have a plan to address those challenges. And number three, there are going to be better days ahead. And when those days come, think of the value we will have created for patients and for shareholders and for employees. And then, lastly, you have to bring the community. In the case of Lilly, you had to bring the community along. And we had I don't know, it was the low point. There were many, but one of the low points was a week. Geez, Jay, I can't remember exactly the year. Somewhere in that journey between, say, 09 and 14, where we had a major Alzheimer's drug fail. We had one of our expiring patents overturned, soon to expire patents overturned by a federal court, which meant that there could have been generic entry sooner. And there was a third thing that happened all in a week. And I remember being home one Saturday and crying in my milk, and my wife said, well, if you think there's a better side to all this, why don't you tell that story? So on Monday, we had a full page ad in the Indianapolis Star, a full page ad in the IBJ, a full page ad in the Recorder, basically a letter from me to the community saying, you're reading all this stuff, bad stuff about Lilly, but I'm here to tell you, while we acknowledge our challenges, we have a plan and better days are ahead. Okay, so you've got to sell that story, and you've got to get people convinced that long term is worth fighting for, because it's a fight. It's a fight, in my opinion, in almost any area these days, because there's just so much focus on the short term, unfortunately.
How do you go through a decision-making process when you're trying to keep that balance?
Well, as I said, short term, long term, Jack Welch once said there's no long term without a short term. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
that's good.
we had, I think I had 36 or 37 quarterly earnings reports in the time that I was CEO. And I viewed those as our short term. That was our short term report card. How do we do that quarter where we doing a good job growing revenue when we could grow revenue? Were we managing the business in the right way to make sure our earnings remained reasonable given all the challenges that we faced? Were we investing sufficiently in R&D? Those sorts of things. I think that there are trade-offs that you have to make, and it's not you're taking one road, the long-term road, or the short-term road. I think that it's a matter of balance. All things equal, could we have found other uses for the billion or $2 billion in cash we were paying out in dividends every year? If we had suspended the dividend, we probably could have, but I think that would have cost us a lot of shorter term support, and we felt like we needed that support from faithful, loyal shareholders who depended on that dividend. So that's just one example. But I think that you have to keep both things in mind. But I think the greatest peril, the tendency is going to pull you to the short term. I think the greatest peril is not keeping in mind the long term, the reason why you're there, why any organization, why do you exist? And unless you're planning to go out of existence, okay, or you're planning to sell yourself off, and there are different circumstances, but whether you're United Way or you're Eli Lilly and Company, or you're a congregation somewhere with a food pantry, okay, you have a mission, you have a goal. Sorry, the phone's ringing behind me. You have a mission and you have a goal, and you want to grow that. You want to make that better and stronger. And so the leader has to constantly ask themselves, in the decisions that I make, am I furthering that objective? Am I making a decision that's going to sidetrack us, that's going to take us away from that? All things equal.
How did you handle the criticism?
Well, I have a very faithful, patient wife of 48 years, and she never asked anything about my business or wanted to get into my business, but she did listen to me more than once and gave me a real good piece of advice to run that newspaper ad. The criticism never, I mean, it was always there. It didn't, I don't know, it didn't bother me. We had people that were critical to our face. I mean, investors, for example, and I tried to listen. I mean, I tried to understand, what they had to say. Nobody wanted to pull Eli Lilly and Company down, but I felt like we had a point of view, and we needed to make it clear why we had that point of view, and then show tangible progress toward the things that we were promising, the things that we were talking about. And the challenge in our case was we couldn't show instant result. I mean, it was a multi-year game. You had to show incremental progress and hope that people could add it up to the point where you get some of these things that pay off. And obviously for Lilly, they did pay off.
In human services and the work that we do, particularly with kids, that's important, because we say we're breaking the cycle of poverty. Well, that takes maybe 2 decades. But what are we doing today, and how do we know that we're moving in that direction? And so I like the incremental progress and gathering that and sharing that. So we're now 2024. Lilly is listed as one of the hottest stocks. What do you say to yourself?
Well, I don't think I would have thought when I retired at the end of 2016 that I would be sitting here talking to you 7.5 years later, and the stock would be 10 times what it was when I retired. I had open heart surgery in 2013, and that was successful, knock on wood. But I decided between my wife and I that once I felt like I saw Lilly beginning to turn around and some of these products being launched, that I would retire earlier than I had to. I retired when I was 63, and I could have gone until I was 65. I knew the company would be in terrific hands with Dave Ricks and the leadership team that we had, and those are by and large the folks that are running the company today. Obviously, I'm delighted for the company. I think that the investment, that some of the decisions we made back then clearly have paid off. I think our decision to maintain, the most important decision we made, was to maintain a robust investment in R&D, and that's what got us the most criticism. I mean, that obviously was money that was coming out of earnings that were already being hurt by the expiration of patents. I think that while we sowed a lot of those seeds, the current team there has executed extremely well, and I'm extremely proud of them, but also proud of the fact that Lilly continues to be an R&D focused and R&D based company. I mean, I worked with Dave for a number of years, and he ran essentially our biggest business unit, which included late stage R&D, late stage clinical development. So I knew, and I know he gets it, and I think that the most exciting thing for me is not only the success the company has now, but the positioning, the way they're positioned for success in the future. I mean, I think that there's a secret sauce in this business, and I think Lilly has has that secret sauce right now.
That's good. Where are you investing your leadership these days?
Really all not for profit, Jay. When I retired, as I said, I might have stayed on longer, but I had a plan, and no regrets. I didn't really know in January 2017 what I wanted to get involved in. Did I want to go on biotech boards or stay involved in business? But I pretty quickly decided I did not want to do that. I mean, I had 37 years at Lilly, and I decided I would spend the time, which was now my discretionary time, in the area of more working in not-for-profits. I was involved in helping start up the Indiana Biosciences Research Institute about 11 years ago, and I joined that board and continue to serve on that board. I was invited to join the board of Lilly Endowment, which was a great honor, and I serve on the Lilly Endowment board. I got involved with a board. I'm still involved with a board, a company called Battelle, Battelle, in Columbus, Ohio. They do.
Yeah. Go Buckeyes.
Yes, they do. They're a huge research organization. They've been around almost 100 years now, and not for profit, but they do a lot of government research. They run, I think at last count, 9 of the national labs for the government. And early in my career, I had a summer internship, or early in my education, when I was in college, I had a summer internship at Oak Ridge National Lab. And I look back now and see that as something that was really formative for me. And our national labs are just huge treasures. And Battelle that's been a fun experience. And I'm also president of our homeowners association, which is the biggest pain in the rear that anybody could ever imagine. But all of these, this homeowner stuff, highly paid, of course. So anyway, no, but having fun, spending time with the grandkids, and reading a lot. Boy, I never had a chance much to read for pleasure, and I just have a big stack of books, and I'm devouring those. And
what are you reading?
Well, I just finished what's called the best one volume work on the Civil War called Battle Cry of Freedom, and written about 20 years ago. And I'm reading a book now that someone recommended called The Splendid and the Vile.
I
About
am too.
oh, you are?
Winston Churchill.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, I was just talking to somebody about that. That's a
yeah,
deep dive into 1 year.
yeah. I finished. I was happy. I finished Oppenheimer before the movie came out, but that's an outstanding book. Uh, but the movie is almost as good, so that was fun.
I finishing Edison, and I have Truman's new biography that is up next. It's on deck, but
Oh, good. Yeah. Another great book. I'm a big fan of Ron Chernow, and I think I've read everything that Ron has written. And by his reckoning, Grant is his best book. And I have to say, I would tell anybody who wants to read just good nonfiction to pick up Grant. It's very interesting.
I have it. I read it.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I still think Doris. No, I can't
Good
think
one.
of her. Goodwin. Team of Rivals is one of the best
Yeah.
leadership book.
Yeah.
And always, I'm 58. I want to be a lifelong learner, and so reading is a great way to do that. Well, John, I thank you for taking time to talk with me. I think also of your legacy with names of people that served under you and now continue to bless our community in so many ways. There was this guy who goes on to be governor who hung out with you a little bit, riding a motorcycle, and he's done some pretty amazing things as a leader. And my good friend Jeff Simmons and what Dave Ricks is doing now, and just so many folks that I think the legacy of John Lechleiter is that you invested in people, and so I appreciate that. And those in turn, many of those folks have invested in the community I serve and in the ministry, and so I appreciate that. So, John, I hope you have a great afternoon. Thanks for taking time to chat.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about Shepherd. What I know about Shepherd is all from Mike Smith over the years. Okay. Maybe sometime over the summer or in the fall, I'd come down for a visit.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to show you around and some of the stuff that we're working on creatively, our health initiatives, and also thank you for Trulicity. My A1C is 5.6, lowest it's been in 20 some years, and that coupled with getting on a treadmill and running a lot. Yeah,
Good for you.
I've
That's
benefited
awesome.
from your pipeline.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's terrific. That's a great drug. And what they have in the pipeline now, it's probably going to be someday supplanted by something else. So it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Well, thanks for doing this. I hope it was useful, and leadership really does matter, and it comes in all shapes and sizes. And I think there's some commonality across things. And certainly I was fortunate to be able to learn from many others, both people who went ahead of me at Lilly, Randy Tobias, Sidney Terrell, and others, but to learn through other experiences in other organizations. It's as you say, being a lifelong learner is a lot of fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, John.